887 White Beach Lane. Someone get to 887 White Beach Lane.
Welcome, everybody, to Dead Talk Live, and it is my honor and privilege tonight to welcome our very special guest, Adrienne Barbeau, from movies like The Fog, Escape from New York, Swamp Thing. Adrienne, thank you so much for being here with us. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing okay, now that we got all our technical difficulties out of the way.
Exactly, and that's it's one of the things that makes live broadcasts great, I think. It's just the unpredictable. So let's get started. Let's go right away into this. Your film debut was with The Fog. So how did you get into John Carpenter's sphere? How did he find you, or did you find him to get you casted for Stevie in The Fog?
Well, John cast me in his first television film, Someone's Watching Me.
Okay.
I think probably the reason he was interested in using me was that he had seen me on Maude, and he had the sense that that I could play the kind of woman that he liked to write, which was, as he's called it many times, the Howard Hawks woman. You know, strong,
Yep.
maybe hopefully witty, that kind of thing. And he just called me in and said, I'd like you to do this role. So we met on Someone's Watching Me. I played the first gay woman on television that I'm aware of. I
Wow.
think. And John had written the script as well. He did a beautiful job on that. And then The Fog came next, and he basically he wrote the role of Stevie Wayne for me.
How did it feel? Now, first of all, I gotta say, I've been talking to people, letting them know you're coming on the show, and they're like, "Wow, Escape from New York." For me personally, Adrienne, when I think of Adrienne Barbeau, it's The Fog. I loved you as Stevie in The Fog. You were amazing as Maggie in Escape from New York, don't get me wrong. But, I mean, when John brought you in for The Fog, and we know John Carpenter likes to work with a specific set of actors and so on, like Jamie Lee Curtis and so on. How did you get introduced? Was that your first time meeting, for example, Jamie Lee Curtis, to the rest of the cast?
No. I knew Jamie because John had already filmed Halloween,
Mm-hmm.
and John and I were a couple by that time. When we, a couple of months after we finished filming Someone's Watching Me, we started dating. So I knew Jamie socially. Tom Atkins is one of my oldest friends. I was the one who introduced Tom to John.
Oh.
Nancy Loomis. Nancy Kyes now, but Nancy
Yes.
Loomis and her, at that time, husband Tommy Wallace stood up for us when we got married. They were John's oldest and dearest friends. So I knew Tommy and Nancy from the time I met John. I knew Deborah because, Deborah was with John from the time I met him. Deborah Hill, the producer.
Yes.
Who else is in the film? I did not know Chuck Cyphers, and I hadn't met Janet Leigh.
About Hal
And
Holbrook?
I had not met Hal. We went on and did Creepshow together after The Fog,
Mm-hmm.
but and truthfully, I mean, I didn't work with anybody else in the movie. It was basically just me and Ty Mitchell, the boy that played my son. But and I don't even recall that Hal was on location with us. I really don't remember that part of it.
Okay.
But it was a family.
It sounds like it. Now, the character of Stevie is very unique in The Fog in that you don't have any other character interaction. You're by yourself in the radio station, in the lighthouse, but by the time the movie ends, you are one of the biggest heroes directing people to safety. How was that in your preparation for the role, in acting it out, knowing that you're not going to have scenes with pretty much anybody else in the cast? I mean, how did that?
I never thought about it. It never crossed my mind. I mean, I'm a disc jockey. You know what that's like.
Yeah.
So I'm speaking, to an audience. So there, I'm that was never an issue. And I don't think it even crossed my mind until after the film was over and people started talking about it and saying, you didn't have scenes with anybody else. And, oh, really?
Do you know, like, when you were shooting your scenes, if the other cast members were already done, or were you the first one to shoot your scenes as far as the chronological order of shooting goes?
That I really don't remember. My scenes on top of the lighthouse were filmed in a studio. So, and we started in Inverness doing the exteriors and the scenes around the lighthouse.
In Scotland?
No, Inverness, California.
Oh, okay,
The film was shot at the Point Reyes National Seashore.
Okay.
That's the Point Reyes Lighthouse. And the town where the mini mart, the gas station,
Mm-hmm.
and where Stevie's house is, and all of those driving scenes along the water, that was a small town called Inverness, which is right next door to Point Reyes.
Gotcha.
The downtown part, in fact, when we had the lighting ceremony, or the whatever they called it, where everybody was, in the town, that was Point Reyes. So it was a combination of the two. They're very small, towns.
The lighthouse is actually still there in Tiburon, California. Oh, yes. It's still there.
Yes. It's an incredible vacation spot if anybody wants to go hiking.
It is beautiful. Let's go back to the beginning. Going from Broadway to film, what was that transition like for you?
Well, I didn't go from Broadway to film. I went from Broadway to television.
That's right.
I left Grease. I was the original Rizzo.
Mm-hmm.
I was nominated for a Tony, and Norman Lear called me in to audition for Maude, and brought me to Los Angeles. Excuse me.
It's okay.
And so my first transition away from theater was 6 years on Maude, and that was tape, and we shot that like a play.
Mm-hmm.
It was, and then during that time I started doing miniseries and TV movies of the week, guest episodes on other series.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until The Fog that I did a feature film, and truly, if it hadn't been for John offering me The Fog in 1978, I don't know how long it would have been, because in 1978, if you were on television, you couldn't get hired to be in a film.
Oh.
The producers, the train of thought was, nobody's going to pay to see somebody in the theater if they can see him for free every night, every Tuesday night at 8:00.
Wow, how things have changed.
Yes. Yeah, and it was, can you excuse me for 10 seconds?
Absolutely.
Hold on.
It just goes to show you guys how things have changed, from the 70s all the way to now.
I'm sorry, the dog got caught
Oh, I know.
inside the studio. And there's
So
another one on the outside who wants to come in. So
now every big star on film is doing television. It's like
yes,
everything is completely changed.
yes.
Now, having been on stage, on television, on film, uh, where does your passion lie?
My passion really lies with the words, with the character. Um, I just did a year touring with the National Company of Pippin because it was such a great role for a woman my age, to be hanging from a trapeze and singing a song upside down. That's not something you get offered very often, and it wasn't something I could turn down. If I had my druthers, it would be the great role in film, I think, because I'm not a nighttime person. So, doing theater means you're up late and and I wake up early, so it's not as easy for
And
me.
sometimes
I'd
you got to
rather
do multiple shows in a single day.
That's true too.
Yeah.
So I'd rather get up at 5 or 6 in the morning and get on the set and do that. But it really comes down to the role.
Exactly. I can totally see. I mean, once you're in the role, it doesn't matter whether it's theater, TV, or film. Would you say Maud was, your biggest break in your career?
Well, Maude certainly introduced me to the a nationwide audience. Um, it was probably being nominated for the Tony for Grease that perpetuated, that kicked everything off. Um, but Maud led to everything else, I think, in terms of television and film.
And it's you. I mean, you and B. Arthur, okay, went on. B. Arthur's, I believe it was mentioned that she had become your mentor. What was your personal relationship like with B. Arthur?
Oh, I love Bee. I loved her. She was just a great lady. I don't know that I wouldn't use the word mentor. If anything, Conrad Bain was really my mentor. He was sort of like my dad.
Wow.
I remember when I bought my first house. I bought it. I walked in, I looked around, I thought this is it, and I bought it. And then I never saw it again until I owned it. And then I saw it with no furniture, and all of a sudden it was like, oh my gosh, what are these walls? And I immediately called Conrad and I said, could you come over and tell me if I made a terrible mistake? B was so much of what I do now in terms of comedy and in terms of comedy delivery, I think, is a direct result of having spent 6 years in the same room with B. I mean, you can't
She's amazing.
you can't be with that kind of talent and not have it rub off on you, So
yeah.
many times I'll deliver a line and I'll think, oh my gosh, that's exactly, I sound just like B, because that's where I learned. I learned so much from her.
What would you say was the best advice you got either from B or Conrad?
Oh,
As far as acting goes.
Conrad told me to buy diesel Mercedes, and B told me to eat hard-boiled eggs with Tabasco sauce.
Now, you're also a writer. What led you to write your memoir, There Are Worse Things I Can Do, back in 2006?
The short story is, I truly believe, that I got a message from a deceased girlfriend of mine. She was my very closest friend. And through a series of events, I feel like I got this message from her.
I totally believe that. I'm a believer of that 100%. So.
Well, I mean, the whole story is this was a woman that I had met on the first day of preschool for my younger child, Cody Carpenter. And we became instant friends, and we were, as close as sisters. and she was a film editor, and she died in '98 of breast cancer.
Wow.
And on the first day of preschool for my younger boys, about 4 years later, a woman walked onto the campus who looked just like my dead friend. And it was so disturbing to me that I had to grab onto something because I thought I was going to pass out.
Wow.
And the woman said, "Are you okay? What's going on?" And I said, yes. I'm sorry. You just look like somebody, a very close friend of mine." She said, "Oh, who?" I said, "Oh, you wouldn't know her." I said, "She was a film editor. She was my closest friend, and she passed away from breast cancer." And this woman who looked just like my friend, just like her, said, "Oh, well, I'm a film editor and I have breast cancer. We could be best friends."
Oh my God. Wow.
So, immediately, like the next day, we went out and had coffee. And during that coffee, she told me about a writing class that she had attended that was taught by a woman who had been an actress on Broadway, a musical comedy actress at the same time I was, who lived not more than a half a mile away from me, and who was teaching writing primarily to actors and actresses, well-known names that you would recognize. And as soon as this woman who looked just like my friend told me this, I thought, you know what? I'm supposed to do this. This is Suzanne telling me I'm supposed to do this. So I started taking the writing class. And, if you're going to take a writing class, you got to bring in homework assignments. You got to write. What am I going to write? And I started thinking about some of the films I had done, some of the people I had dated, some of the things in my life that I sort of took for granted, but I realized maybe, a reader might find funny or interesting or something. So I started writing little pieces about my life, going to Russia to do a horror film and having to have fish heads squeezed all over me so that the rats could swarm all over me because it was a movie about rats, and, or dating Burt Reynolds, or marrying John, or making The Fog, making Escape. Can't remember what else I talked about, but after about 6 months, the teacher said, "You need to get an agent because you've got a book here," and that was my first memoir, named after the song that I sang in Greece. There are worse things I could do.
With a person that has had your experience, how could you not write a book and share that with the world?
It's one thing to write a book, but it's another to write a book in an interesting manner. And that was what was important to me, was did I have a voice that was, people would find funny or interesting. Or whatever.
That leads me exactly to my next question. What was the reaction that you got from your book?
It was a bestseller. It was a bestseller. It was on the LA Times bestseller list, and people seem to really enjoy it.
I would definitely say so. Now, you said you won an award, and how did it feel to win the Theater Guild Award for your portrayal of Rizzo in Grease?
Oh, it's so long ago, and right now I'm working on my 5th book. With the director of the original company of Grease and the producer of the original company of Grease. We're working on a book that we hope to have released for the 50th anniversary of Grease next year, Valentine's Day.
Wow.
I can't talk about it too much, but it was so long ago, and I really don't remember.
No.
I remember when I got the call that I had been nominated for the Tony, and it was a total shock because Grease wasn't even. We were on a Broadway contract, but we were in a theater downtown, the Eden Theater, and so it never had crossed my mind that we would even be eligible for the Tony Awards.
So it was a Broadway play, but it was done off Broadway.
We originally opened in a 500-seat theater in the East Village called the Eden Theater. But because it was 500 seats, we were on a Broadway contract.
Okay.
So when time came for the Tony Awards, well, the man that was the head of the Tony Award or Association was not happy about the fact that we deserved to be included. But the producers sort of cracked the whip, and we were nominated. Barry Bostwick was nominated, Timothy Myers was nominated, and I was nominated for Tonys.
That is awesome. And I'm glad that, whatever, hang up that guy had about it being a little off Broadway did not, in the end, did not stick.
I don't know, because he was quoted as saying, you're not going to win anything. It's going to be over my dead body if you win anything. We didn't win anything, but who knows? Who knows?
Now, going into The Fog, it being your first feature film, what expectations did you have of what you were going to face in shooting it?
None. I don't remember. I had already worked with John. I knew that, he was a fantastic director, and I knew I could trust him completely. And I knew most of the crew, his AD and his location manager and his second AD and the DP. And I didn't have, I just,
just went in there.
I don't really think in those terms. I don't think I show up with any expectations except wanting to do a good job.
So, so when you did it, and it was done, did you say, okay, wow, this is something that, in regards to feature films, I would definitely love to continue doing this?
You mean the genre?
Yeah, the genre, horror, feature films.
I sort of don't think in those terms. It all depends on what's offered me and what I like. I just finished another film called Unearthed, which is it's a horror film, but it's a socially significant horror film about fracking.
Wow.
But again, I took it because I loved the script. There have been times in my life, and I go into this in detail in the book, when I've taken things because I needed to work, I needed to pay the bills, or because I wanted to go to Russia, which is where the Rat movie took place. But I expect, that everybody's going to do their job, and that it's going to be as good as I think it's going to be when I read the script.
So that leads me perfectly to my next question. Let's take the characters of Stevie and Maggie. Maggie from Escape from New York and Stevie. Which character do you feel more personal connection to, or felt was a stronger character out of Stevie or Maggie? Two women, strong women, self-sufficient. We saw how Maggie, was in love with the character of Brain and was devastated by his death. Seek revenge, which ultimately led to Maggie's demise on the movie. So, two very strong women. Are they just
with a sense of morality? I
exactly.
think that's what Even Stevie doesn't leave her post to go save her son.
Yeah.
Because she's got a larger calling. She's got to try and save everybody.
Yep.
And Maggie has to avenge Brain's death. There's no question. It's not about her. It's about doing what's right.
Now, moving on to Maggie and Escape from New York and The Fog, two Carpenter films, okay? First of all, where was Escape from New York shot? Was it shot on a lot in L.A.?
No, it was shot in St. Louis.
St. Louis?
Most of it was shot in St. Louis. The opening scenes were shot at the I can't remember what it's called now, the dam, the Sepulveda Dam, I think,
okay.
here in Los Angeles. And our crib where Brain and Maggie lived was at the UCLA Law Library, I think. But all of the rest, all the exteriors, all the wrestling scene, or the scene in the boxing rink,
Yeah.
and all of those things were shot in St. Louis. The bridge was in St. Louis. St. Louis at that time had an area of the city that was really in disarray, and that bridge was not even functioning.
How was it working with the late great Harry Dean Stanton, who played Brain on Escape from New York?
Harry was great. Harry was great. All of the guys were great. I loved them all.
Kurt
It was
Russell was like still an up and comer. Did you two, find it easy to get along with each other?
again Kurt and his wife Susan at the time, who plays the chock full of nuts girl.
Exactly. Susan Hubley.
Kurt and Susan we were all close social friends because
Mm-hmm.
John had directed Kurt in Elvis, and
Mm-hmm.
Susan, he had directed Susan um, in Elvis. So I knew them as friends before I knew them on screen, or as on the set. And
So,
they're great. They're both great to work with. I didn't have any scenes with Susan, but Kurt is fantastic.
and then of course, even though you didn't have any scenes directly, Isaac Hayes, another great actor who played the Duke of New York. Just you've had such an honor of working with such great actors throughout your career. It's kind of hard to fathom all of it. Did you feel like the history of the town being haunted? I mean, how did it make you feel? The overall story of the fog, the plot of the story of the town and its corruption. Were you really drawn to that plot? You already said that John wrote the role of Stevie for you. As far as the overall plot of the movie, I love the fog, the original fog. What were your thoughts on the entire script?
I had never seen horror films. In fact, when you showed your opening
Clip, yeah.
montage, not of me, but the montage for the show, I was watching and I was thinking, I think I've seen two of these.
Wow.
I'm not a horror film. I don't. I mean, I don't enjoy seeing them. I don't enjoy watching them.
So how does it
Um,
make you feel to be in the horror scream queen list?
it's been fantastic. It's been it's given me an enormous part of my career. I mean, I've done a lot of other things, but there's a whole group of people out there who know me for the genre,
Exactly.
and they're fantastic fans. They're just it's a great thing to be associated with. I just don't like to see them.
What you know
I don't like to be scared.
exactly, and you're not the first person who I've interviewed who's done a lot of horror. But as far as when it's time for them to sit back and relax at home, there's no horror movies in their queue to watch.
No,
It
there's no
makes
horror movies in my cue box.
Well, what I've heard a lot of people say is that shooting horror movies is extremely fun. Do you think of it that way as also?
Every set is different. Every set is different. I've been on some that were not fun at all. They just were just difficult, really difficult. It really everyone is specific, I think. Um, yeah.
And you have so many contacts in the horror industry. Let's go on to Wes Craven and your leading role in The Swamp Thing. Okay, I believe that was shot in South Carolina. Is that accurate?
We were in Charleston. We were in Charleston. Yes,
Yeah,
South
Charleston,
Carolina.
South Carolina.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Cypress Gardens, Magnolia Gardens. Yeah.
Now, Wes Craven, back, he's been around even from the early 70s. He did The Last House on the Left, has sort of been establishing himself as a horror director. What did your relationship go and your interactions with Wes Craven?
I liked Wes a lot. We were not as close because he had a really difficult time, a difficult shoot on his hands.
Hmm.
Um, uh, the movie was under budgeted, and the studio kept cutting the budget out from under him. So he was just working nonstop. And when we weren't working, there was no time for socializing because we were working 14-hour days, and then he was going to see dailies, and or else he was rewriting the script because
Yeah.
they just pulled more money out from under him, and he couldn't do that scene, and he didn't have those actors. And it was the final product is a real tribute to him because uh, it wasn't easy.
Yeah, it
It
sounds
really
like
wasn't easy.
he had very limited resources, but he still pulled out a pretty decent product with the limited resources that he had. And you were
Yeah.
great. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the Swamp Thing the first feature film where you have a lead co-leading role in? I believe it is.
Um,
Is that
I
part
never
of the
thought about it
reason?
that
Is
way.
that part of the reason that attracted you to the Swamp Thing to do it? Now, the Swamp Thing came out in '82, which is after The Fog,
After the
uh,
fog and after Escape.
and after Escape. What attracted you to that? Brought you to do the Swamp Thing?
Well, again, it was the character, strong woman kicking butt.
Now, a lot of people don't know this, but you were the voice in in the movie The Thing with Kurt Russell, where I believe Kurt Russell took out his frustration by throwing a cup of coffee on the computer that was, your voice was coming through. So, was it just a connection again with Kurt Russell that you became the voice in the movie The
No, it was
Thing?
John.
It
It
was
was
all
John.
John.
Yeah, I mean, John directed it. John said, "Come and do this voice for me. Come and be the voice of the computer."
And it's really funny. If you look at John's movies, The Fog, Halloween, of course, which is probably what he's very famous for. The Thing, Escape from New York is the one that it's not a horror movie. It's more like I don't know, a futuristic. Back then, it was
Hmm.
futuristic
Hmm.
action film. Uh, what would you guess was John's deviation from horror into doing Escape from New York, which was absolutely brilliant?
Well, before that, he did Elvis,
Yes,
and
yes, I forgot
and
about that. Yes.
and Someone's Watching Me, which was a thriller, not a horror film. Assault on Precinct 13 was not a horror film.
Okay.
Um, I think he had Dark Star. He started with Dark Star, which was a science fiction. I mean, sort of science fiction thing. Um, so I mean, he's bounced around. I think John's, and you'd have to talk to him, but I seem to remember his philosophy about film is that he wanted to make people feel, not think, but feel.
Exactly.
Jump,
Yeah.
or he wanted to move people in a visceral sense. And I shouldn't be quoting him, but he wasn't interested in doing talking heads and things like that.
I
He,
totally get it. I totally get it. It totally makes sense. And, hopefully one day we will have John Carpenter on here soon. Now, you have worked with Tom Atkins in like 4 different films. The Fog, Escape from New York, and then there's Creepshow. You've also done
yes,
Creepshow, and
yes,
then
and Two Evil Eyes.
Two Evil
Yes.
Eyes. Have you guys did you guys become good friends?
Oh, Tom and I were friends long before. Uh, Tom and I met in about 1974, maybe, or 75. He was dating one of my closest friends who had also been on Broadway in Greece.
Mm-hmm.
And I introduced Tom to John. So I've known Tom longer than I've known John.
Wow.
And I love him dearly. We've done 4 films together. We've never had a scene together.
That's true. That is
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. Although I'm hoping, because we're in the process and we're trying to find financing for my second vampire novel, and I wrote Tom into that novel as Tom Atkins.
Wow.
So if it comes to the big screen, then, although my character still doesn't, my character still wouldn't be in the same room with him.
So after written as many, you've written several novels, are you like really comfortable and have found, another passion in writing that you want to just continue doing for as long as you can?
Not really. I mean, when I finished the third vampire novel, I just had no intention of writing. Well, I ended up writing the screenplay for the second one, but I had no intention of writing again. And then this Grease project came along, and I am writing some of it. I'm editing most of it and rewriting a lot of it. But I'm not a storyteller in my mind, and I don't. I enjoy the process, but I don't think, and I've been happy with the end result, but I don't think of myself as a writer, if that makes sense.
Well, that's a good question.
I mean, I'm not Stephen King thinking, oh my God, I've got another idea. Here's another idea. This is what I want to write. I don't know. Well, that's not me.
That leads to a fascinating question. Let's say you meet somebody for the first time. They don't know who you are, and they ask you, well, what do you do? What is the answer you would give them?
I don't necessarily meet somebody, but when you have to fill out forms and it says your occupation, I usually put actress/author, because I've earned my living doing both, but and I've been very blessed to be able to do that, to be able to earn my living doing something I love.
And you are still going very, very strong. I asked this question to Robert Joy the other day, and the question I asked him, is there just a certain point after you've accomplished so much in your career and you have all these great accomplishments, you can look back and really be proud that you feel, you know what, it's time for me to just, put work aside and enjoy my life doing, recreational stuff. Has that ever crossed your mind?
Well, the thing is, work is recreational stuff for me. I mean, I really love to work. I love to work when I'm not acting or writing.
Mm-hmm.
I do video captioning for the blind.
Wow.
I read scripts
that
have been written for the dialogue, for in between dialogue in a TV show or a movie. So if you're watching your television and you put it on the SAP, under audio video you choose SAP, then you'll see the scene, but when the actors start speaking, you'll hear a voice, sometimes mine, describing what's going on the screen for the visually impaired.
That is so
in other words,
awesome.
And so I enjoy doing that, and it sort of gives me a sense of accomplishment. And so I don't know. I don't know that the day would ever come when I would just say, okay, that's it. I'm not going to act anymore, or I'm not going to do this anymore, or I'm not going to do that anymore. The nice thing about, being at this end of my life is that I can pick and choose what I want to do, So if something comes along And I don't care enough. I don't care enough to go do that, you know. But
Yeah.
that one I'd really love to go do, you know. I just did a podcast called "The World to Come."
Uh-huh.
I just did one episode. It's a radio play. It's a music. It's a how do I describe it? a science. It's a futuristic science fiction musical radio play
Wow.
with 25 of the top Broadway actors, and I had a great time doing that. And I just did another a guest appearance on a new Netflix series that was shooting in New Zealand. Can't talk about it yet, but I'm looking forward to seeing that. And this movie Unearthed, which I'm very proud of, which I did about, I think I did about 4 films right before the pandemic. And so they're all, you know, sort of lying fallow, or they've gone to streaming. Unearthed is making the festival rounds right now, and I believe I'm hoping we'll be seeing it in the theaters by this summer.
Oh.
It's good. It's really good.
I bet it is. I bet.
Yeah.
Now, I want to go back to the voice thing for a second. You've done a lot of voiceover work. In fact, you did Catwoman in the Batman animated series. You did the
Right.
voiceover for that. For someone who wants to break into the industry as a voiceover acting as sort of a way to get their feet wet, how difficult is that?
I think, especially now, it is very difficult. And the reason I say especially now is because in the last 4 or 5 years, there's been a big pilgrimage of major A-list movie actors who have realized that this is great fun,
Yeah.
and they are lending their names. So the competition is extremely difficult.
Tough, yes.
It is tough, and because so many people are working from home, they all have their studios set up. When I did Pippin, one of the actors, a wonderful actor named Alan Kelly, who's Irish, has a huge voiceover career, and he was doing all of his auditions and his productions from his hotel room in Amsterdam. We were in Amsterdam, or we're in Dallas, or we're in Boston, and so it's a great career if you can make it pay off. But if somebody is just getting started, and not that you asked my advice, but I would think that the best way to do it is to take classes. There are classes in animation, because it's a whole other, it's a whole other approach to acting. And there are voiceover classes. There are actual voiceover classes.
And when it comes to voiceover, it's not really limited. There's audiobooks nowadays, and people can get their feet wet, get recognition, and so on. I think it's actually fascinating for maybe somebody who wants to try to get into the industry somehow. Now, going back to the movies, for example, The Fog, when you were on top of the lighthouse, do you do your own stunts, or did you have a stunt double?
No, no, that's all me.
That's all you.
That's all me. We probably couldn't afford a stunt double. I don't know.
Did between The Fog and Escape from New York, as far as you know, which one had a bigger budget?
I don't know. I would think Escape, only because John was farther into his career and had more. And certainly it must have maybe it was bigger because he had, Donald Pleasance and Ernie Borgnine and Kurt. I mean, but I don't know. I never paid attention to that kind of stuff.
It's just, there's so many things that are floating through my mind. I'm just keeping an eye on the time. You also did you were on AJ and the Queen.
Yes,
What was that
yes.
experience like?
I loved it. I fell in love with Rue, Paul, and I liked the character, and it was a really nice, it was a nice experience. I was sorry that the series didn't get picked up
Yeah, on
because
Netflix.
I thought it was rather charming and got progressively better as it went on. You know.
I asked this question to a lot of my guests. You've been acting for so long. What do you think of the progression that technology plays in today's filmmaking to what it was like back in the late 70s and early 80s?
Well, I'm not a big movie goer,
Okay.
so I tend to watch a lot of European mystery series on television, you know, and uh, but I am aware that there are things coming in like deep fakes
Yeah.
and roto what is it called, rotoscoping,
Yeah, there's
and
so many different things.
there's so many new techniques and CGI. I hear people say that, oh, it was better when we were doing the actual visual effects and
Yeah,
not doing
with
CGI.
actual makeup people right there, especially in
Yes,
horror.
yes, yeah,
Yeah,
um,
I mean,
yeah.
it's
And
different.
maybe there's a place for all of it, you know. Maybe we're gonna. I don't know if we're gonna go too far in one direction and then come back when we realize that they all have value. I don't know. It's not. Again, I'm not a. I'm not an expert in that field.
Yeah. Uh, Go looking back on your career and all the wonderful people that you have met. You've mentioned a lot of the people that you've known before you appeared on a movie with. Is there a particular person who you've met on a set that you've become a lifelong friend with?
Tim DeKay comes to mind from Carnival,
Okay.
the HBO series. Tim and his wife and their kids. Um, uh, I'm sure there's there's
After
many
meeting,
more, but
yeah, after meeting so many people, it's like,
yeah,
yeah. Just out of
yeah.
curiosity, The Fog was remade in 2005. Did you watch the remake of The Fog?
No, I've never
Okay,
seen it.
you're not missing anything.
That's what I hear.
Yeah, you're not missing anything. Your version of The Fog, it can never be replaced.
Ah,
It can never be replaced. Just going down, when it comes to the makeup that went involved in the fog with the pirates and the fog and so on.
hmm.
Did you get to witness how involved that was with when you're being attacked? Actually, when you're being attacked on that rooftop, it's the only scene in the movie where we get a really clear look at one of the pirates, for lack of a
Mm.
better term. How was the makeup, effects? I mean, was it like fully
I don't
detailed?
remember. I don't
That's okay.
remember. I'm sorry.
It's okay. A part of the thing for me that makes the fog so eerie is that we don't get to see these supernatural beings, because that's what they are, in any great detail, except for that one split second scene when you're on top of the lighthouse
Hmm.
and we see his face and there's maggots coming out of his face. It's pretty disgusting when you think about it, but I was just curious. Um, Now you have worked. There were so many big personalities. What was your experience with Creepshow?
Oh, it was great. It was great. Uh, well, there's somebody else who became a lifelong friend, George Romero.
Oh,
I love George, and I still keep in contact with his first wife and
hmm
his daughter, and um, um,
it
but
seems like whoever
I
George
loved doing
met.
Creepshow. It was just fantastic. It was fantastic.
Yeah,
It was so much fun.
it's it seems like whichever person comes across George Romero, he left an impact on their life.
Yes.
He was just
Yes.
that kind of person. Are you a fan, or you said you don't watch horror, but because of George Romero, did you watch any of his Dead movies, Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, or any of those?
I watched Knight Rider.
Knight
And I
Rider.
remember liking Knight Rider a lot.
Yeah.
And I did see Monkey Shines. And I suspect that John showed me Night of the Living Dead because I wasn't sure I was going to do that. I wasn't sure I was going to do Creepshow. I just thought when they sent me the script, I haven't thought about this for a while. When they sent me the script, I thought, "Ooh, gosh, I can't do this. This is vile. This is terrible," you know. And I called Tom Atkins, who had already been cast. I said, "Tommy, you're doing this movie?" And he said, "Oh yeah, you don't get it. It's you got to think of it. It's going to be very stylized. It's going to be a cartoon. You got to do this." And John is saying to me, "Are you kidding me? You're going to turn down an opportunity to work with George Romero?
Oh.
Let me show you this movie." You know, so I'm sure he showed me Night of the Living Dead. I don't know that it had any effect on me, but I do remember enjoying Knight Rider.
I don't know if you can answer this or not, but I've heard some rumors here and there that you are actually in the upcoming season of Greg Nicotero's Creepshow. Is that accurate or not?
Not the upcoming season. No, I was in the opening, the first season.
Okay, yeah, I knew that, but you're not coming back for another role on the second season.
No. Well, nobody's called me.
Okay. Yeah. How did it feel to come, doing Creepshow what was your experience with Greg Nicotero?
I liked Greg a lot. I didn't, I think he may have been around the set when we did Creepshow, but he probably was just getting started. I don't know his whole history. But and of course his name has always been,
yeah,
in my forefront of my mind. But I didn't know what to expect as a director, and he was wonderful. He was great.
Yeah. When you look back and being in the Creepshow way back then and in the revised version, I mean, how does that make you feel?
Well, I mean, nobody can live up to Billy in the original Creepshow, and the character I did in the Anthology series for Shudder she was okay, but it wasn't Billy.
No, I totally get that. Adrienne, we are out of time. You've been amazing. Thank you so much. What should we look out for you here in the coming future?
Okay, well, I don't know if I'm keeping my website up to date, but most of what I'm doing you can find on my website, abarbeau.com, or right now on Alter is Alter is another horror streaming platform.
Yeah.
Is a film that I did a few years ago that won all kinds of awards, and I really like seeing it. It's called Alice Jacobs is Dead.
Okay.
It's a 22-minute short film. It was my first zombie role.
Wow.
So that's on Alter right now. There's a bunch of stuff streaming right now. I did a sort of a Hallmark kind of film called For the Love of Jesse. And there's I did a golf comedy film called, oh my gosh.
So many movies, so many films.
Oh my gosh.
It's hard to remember them all.
What's the Albatross? There's something in the, oh my gosh, I can't remember it.
It's okay. If we got Albatross, we can look it up.
It's with Dan Lauria.
Okay.
The eagle and the albatross, are those both golf terms? Does that sound familiar? Does that sound right?
Yes,
Do
as
you
far
play
as,
golf?
yeah. Well, I know that the eagle, yeah, eagle is definitely a term in golf.
Okay, the eagle and the albatross, I think that one was called.
Okay.
And then there was another one that I did right around that time, and I can't even remember what it was. Unearth will be coming. The Netflix series will be coming. The podcast is called The World to Come.
And that's the podcast where you've done that single episode on, correct?
Yes, and I think my episode drops on March 15th, or I think they were just talking about maybe it'll be the following week, sometime in late March.
Okay.
And hopefully the Grease book will be out next Valentine's Day.
That's awesome. So we have a lot of stuff to look forward to from you. A lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, Adrienne, you've been amazing. Again, thank you so much. It's been a true honor talking to you. Just to give you a scope of where I'm coming from, I grew up watching you, and to be here and to talk to you in person or virtually has been an absolute treat. Thank you so much for being here. I want to thank all of our viewers for tuning in. Everybody stay safe. On behalf of Adrienne Barbeau and myself, stay safe and always stay walking. Good night, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.